Welcome to The World Awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust.
I'm Kirstie Bedford, journalist, editor and travel writer.
And I'm Belinda Jackson, author, travel journalist and columnist, and we're your weekly co-hosts. Welcome to The World Awaits. How are you all?
Hey everyone.
How was your week, Kirstie?
Oh my God, ridiculously productive. Well, from a crime writer's perspective anyway. So I spent the week at Varuna in the Blue Mountains and had the most productive writing week of my life. And it was touch and go because I actually had COVID a few weeks beforehand, so which you probably heard in my voice, which I didn't sort of admit to at the time. I was trying to sort of just power on and pretend I was okay. But if you have a listen back and you hear my croaky voice, that was why. But anyway, and I was really worried because you have to show a negative COVID test to go to Varuna.
Oh, and I know how much this meant to you. So for those of you who don't know, can you explain what Varuna is, Kirstie?
So it's a beautiful property, sprawling property in the Blue Mountains that was gifted to the public by Australian author Eleanor Dark's son Mick as a retreat for writers. So when Eleanor died, she left it to her son, and he didn't want to live there. He grew up there, but he also didn't want it to be knocked down. It's a stunning property. And so after some consultation, he decided to gift it to the literary world, which was fitting given his mother was a published author and very revered Australian author. So basically every awarded writer you can imagine has now stayed there, and it really is the holy grail for creative writers. So when I arrived, I got to the bottom of the driveway and I just honestly felt like a child at the gates to Disneyland. I can't explain how much it meant to me. I was actually a little bit overwhelmed, and you just couldn't wipe the smile off my face. It was just one of those really surreal moments that, you know, that will honestly stay with you forever.
So how do you get to go there?
So you have to apply. So if you go to the website varuna.com.au, there's a number of fellowships and residencies to apply for. And once you've been accepted for a fellowship, then you can become alumni and then you can request a residency at any time. So they host about 200 writers a year.
Oh, right. And so what does a day at Varuna look like?
Oh my gosh, Belle, the serenity knows no bounds. So you start by helping yourself to a selection of delicious breakfast options, and then you simply just retire to your writing space and you write. So there are 4 bedrooms upstairs with adjoining study areas and 1 downstairs and a separate accessible studio. So there are only ever 6 people there at a time. My room was called, they've all got little names. It's really cute, like beer room, the ladder room. I had the sewing room as my bedroom and the green room as my office. And you can have a look at it if you want to jump over to my Insta, which is Kirstie Writes. You can have a little look at my writing space. Just look out for the little yellow house.
Oh, cute. So do you just write all day, or can you head out and have a breather in the Blue Mountains? It's a beautiful time to be up there in the Blue Mountains, isn't it?
Yes, always, because the seasons are obviously so distinct up there. So you can come and go as you please, but yeah, the point is to write. So I did do a little walk a couple of times just because you're sitting for so long, so just keep the movement going. And also because you're so close to everything. So it was 2.2 kilometres to get down to the Three Sisters Lookout, which is just stunning. And yeah, most of the time I was basically head down writing though. So, and the best part about it is that no one's going to interrupt you. So everyone's very respectful, and during the day you could hear a pin drop. It's that quiet, and it makes for just a really productive and focused time, which is rare but essential when you're trying to get your head around a large project like a manuscript.
Oh wow! And what about the other meals of the day? I mean, you're not having to go out shopping, you're not doing house maintenance, all of those things that interrupt you when you're sitting there trying to write and you're like, oh, I've got to hang the washing out. So what about the other meals of the day?
Yeah, so you help yourself to lunch, and then we all get together for an evening meal, which is just some deliciousness made by the cooks. They come in each night and whip up a culinary feast. So you pretty much head down writing, and then you sort of hear them rattling about in the kitchen at about sort of 5:30, 5:45, and we all come down and gather together in one of these stunning lounge areas with beautiful fireplace And it's a really invaluable part because you're surrounded by like-minded people who really get the process of what you're trying to achieve. So you can chat about, what you've achieved for the day, and also, all other things obviously we chatted about, but it was just a really nice chance to get together and have a chat about all things writing.
Yeah, oh, it sounds absolutely divine.
It really did just exceed all my expectations. I didn't really know what to expect when I went up there, apart from the fact that I had held Verona in such high esteem for a really long time. But I felt like I wrote in a week as much as I would in months, like literally. That's just honestly what you achieve when you're up there, because you have just complete quiet and focus, and none of those responsibilities that we have in life, like kids just walking in the door and saying what's for lunch or what's for dinner.
So the last question is, when do we actually, and the most important question, when do we get to read this fabulous crime novel?
Well, it's a marathon, not a sprint, but I am hoping I'm nearing the finish line, at least to be able to present something. So we'll see, and I'll keep you posted.
You're listening to The World Awaits. We'd love it if you could leave us a rating and review on your favourite podcast platform.
This week, I chat to Tasmanian couple Andrew and Nicola Hughes, who quit their jobs to bike around the world with their 3 kids, including a 1-year-old. They talk about their incredible journey, including the reality of road cycling with 3 young children in tow, why they felt it was so important for their family, and how they're funding it.
Welcome to the show, Nick and Andrew.
Thanks, Kirstie.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's great to have you on The World Awaits. So we'll start by just explain to our listeners a little bit about what you're doing, because you've already travelled with your entire family on bikes around Australia. So tell us what you're up to now.
Okay, well, this time it's a little bit different. We've got a new addition. We've got Jeannie. So along with Hope, who's 10, Wilfie, who's 8, we've got Jeannie, who's 1.5. We are on a tandem and triplet bicycle, and we are riding around the world for the next 3 years.
So what got you started? Like, you started and did the whole of Australia, didn't you? And you're from Tasmania originally?
Yeah, that's right. 2019, when Hope and Wilfie were 5 and 3, we decided to put them on tandem bicycles and ride for 12 months, 15,000 kilometres around Australia. And we completed that journey at the end of 2019, just before COVID hit, really. And I guess we've been sort of planning and wondering what the next big thing for us as a family was going to be. And we landed on this idea of doing what we knew we'd love to do, which was continue our riding adventures, but do it on a slightly grander scale.
And what inspires you to do this? Because most people, we all love traveling with our families, and a lot of people, love going away for say a week, but then you're sort of ready to go back to your routine. What inspires you to be on the road for so long with such young kids?
Well, I suppose for us it was really around setting the foundations for what we wanted our family's life to be. So when you're on a bicycle, you're traveling very slowly. It's a very simple lifestyle. You meet lots of people along the way. Look, you have the tantrums and the tears just like you would in a normal house, but you're going on an adventure with your kids, and you get to spend all this time watching them grow and develop and discover, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, I'd add to that adventure gives some things that it's hard to get in day-to-day life at home. Things that are there always, like challenge and persistence and perseverance and exploration. But when you're on an adventure, those things come really easily. They're sort of confronting you every single day. And they're the values that we really hold dear. And we want to, I suppose, share that with our children right from a young age, and give them what we think are the benefits from that sort of life. So I guess that's why we're doing it.
Yeah, and then opening, really opening them up to the world around them.
So how did you go about, I'd love to know more about how you got set up. So how did you know, I mean, and it must have been a bit of sort of finding your way the first time, was it, around Australia? Like, how did you know everything that you sort of needed?
It was a work in progress. So when you start at any big adventure, you're always wondering what you should and shouldn't take and how the logistics will go, if you like. Nick and I both have sort of a head start because we've both been doing adventure travel for a long time. So riding bikes around Australia was not new to us. We've both done that separately before. But when you add children in, then you add in a whole new factor of what do they need to travel with? How far can you go with kids on a bicycle? Where can you camp? What sort of things are they going to be able to do on the bike and off the bike? So it does get more complicated, and we had to just play that by ear as we started that trip in 2019.
Yeah. I mean, you're constantly learning and evolving as you travel. And I mean, even, we're 5 years down the road and we've just started a new journey around the world. But, we're relearning stuff, and we're also going, oh, well, things are a bit different. We might need warmer clothes, or we might need different entertainment for Jeannie on the bike, or even figuring out how we're going to do toileting for a 1.5-year-old.
Absolutely. And so tell us a bit about what are your career backgrounds and what allows you, because I'm sure people will be thinking, I would love to do that, but I could never get that time off work.
Well, you have to quit.
Yeah. Be prepared to just go, what, we're going to do things a bit differently. So we're both teachers, outdoor ed backgrounds, and basically we said we were really keen to do this, so it meant saying goodbye to those jobs, having saved up a bit of money and mortgaged the house, and that's part of it.
Although you're not really giving up, are you? Because you're obviously teaching the kids while you're on the road.
Well, that's a big part of it. So we've not only are we teaching our own kids, but we've developed the website and all the outreach from the project to go into classrooms around Australia and increasingly as we travel around the world, so that students in classrooms can share in what we're doing as we travel. And it's certainly not a money-making venture, but it allows us to, I guess, make the trip more useful to others than just having a wonderful adventure for ourselves. So we make resources for classrooms to use for free, and at the same time, we're constantly working because we've got 3 kids to look after on the trip as we go.
So tell us a bit about we'll get into what you're doing right now, because you're in New Zealand and where you're headed after this, but and the logistics involved in that. But tell us a bit about Australia and when you did that journey. Tell me some of the highlights and then some of the things that were really particularly challenging.
I love highlights. We always answer it differently, to be honest with you, and that's because looking back on it, it was 4 or 5 years ago now, and the whole thing just seemed like a dream. It just seemed like a really wonderful way to spend a year. I guess highlights, you'd probably pick out the people that we met along the way.
Definitely. I mean, the stories of the people that we met along the way were just incredible. And I think when you rock up to a place and you're riding 2 tandem bikes, you stick out like sore thumbs. And so people will often approach us. We're not scary. And they'll just start having a chat to us. And the kindness and generosity that people showed to us as we travelled around Australia, in the outback, in the Pilbara, up the bottom of Cape York on the Gulf, across the Nullarbor, it was just amazing. People in caravans or on stations will just stop and check in and see how you're going, offer you a cup of tea, and share a bit of their world and their part of the country that they were from. And I think for us, and in particular for the kids, to get that insight into people's stories was incredible. But also for the kids just to see that, no matter where we were, people were always kind and hospitable to us.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what were some of the most challenging parts?
Well, actually, it was really interesting. When we left,
I've forgotten them.
yeah. Oh, we often say, like one of the most challenging bits is when you actually it's pre-departure, when you're trying to get everything organised, you're trying to say goodbye and finish your work and get the kids sorted and all that sort of stuff, and that was incredibly challenging and stressful, and packing up a house and cleaning that all up. But one thing that just actually flashed in my mind then was when we were riding up through northern Victoria, and there was this boundary, and you literally just rolled over it, and all of a sudden there were these things called cat's head burrs.
Different names around Australia, but
Bindies, these
caltrop, goat's head birds.
These prickles, these insane prickles that would just find your tyre anywhere you were as soon as you hopped off the side of the road. And there was this section that we just kept on getting puncture after puncture after puncture, and let alone when they hit your foot. So that was just one of the things that came to my mind then.
Yeah, no, punctures are a challenge. One other definite challenge is when you're doing strenuous physical exercise and you've got the kids with you. So you might be starving, hungry, and it's just before the end of the day or just before lunchtime, and you're exhausted, and you've got to manage the big emotions of little kids, then that combination can be quite challenging. So there are parts of the day that will be much more difficult than other parts. And it's usually when you're physically exerting yourself or very tired and you're hungry and you've got a child with a specific need that you're finding it hard to meet at that very moment, and how to balance that, it can be very challenging.
Yes. I mean, it's challenging on a normal day not to swear, isn't it? Let alone riding along on a bike in a small town and you're screaming at your kids. But I'm sure that did not happen.
Not in.
So what did the kids think about it? What were their thoughts on the whole experience?
Oh, well, they absolutely loved it. I mean, they were 3 and 5 at the time, and they had Australia as their playground, and we would just rock up to these random roadside camps, and they would go and explore and discover all this stuff. And what we would normally think is like, oh, is that a pile of rubbish? It was a broken down car, and they would just think it was the bee's knees, and loading tins on top of each other and creating these stacks and aeroplanes, and they just their imagination ran wild. It was a beautiful thing to actually watch that unfold.
Yeah,
bet it was. And tell us a bit about what you're doing now. You've left home, Tassie, and what's happening with the house? Are you renting the house out?
Yeah, we joke, but our renters are our biggest sponsors. They're covering while we're away. We're lucky to have a house south of Hobart, and when we've always gone away, we've always rented the house out. That's the only way we can make ends meet. So that was cleaned up just before we left, and we've got some wonderful people looking after that. And yeah, we basically set 2 weeks in Tasmania to test everything out. So we were close enough to home if things broke down mechanically, or if Jeannie wasn't coping with being in the baby seat, or whatever it was. We had 2 weeks where we were within 150 kilometres of home. So we did that, and it all went really well. And with that sort of confidence, we flew over to New Zealand, and we've been here for less than a week. And we've just started riding up the Otago region from Dunedin up towards Wanaka. And we're aiming for the West Coast. And then I think in total we'll be here
about 2.5 months.
About 2.5 months, and hopefully finish up in Auckland to catch a plane to South America.
So how do you logistically get the gear and everything over? I mean, is it just that must be a huge expense? How does that work?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, week.
So okay, you imagine. So Andrew spent when we were in Tassie, I think it was 2.5 days packing up the bike. So we all helped clean and sort that stuff out, and then we had to sort of custom them into bike boxes because these are big bikes. This is not your all-size bikes. So we're measuring the boxes to the nth degree. We're weighing them because they've got to be under 32 kilos. They can't be longer than 2 point.
Every airline has its own special way of working out what oversize means. So we're between Qantas, Jetstar and Air New Zealand, we had to make sure that it would get through all of those checkpoints. And we got there, and believe it or not, we didn't get charged any excess baggage at all. We because we're traveling with panniers and don't have much gear in the normal sense, our total weight was under what you're allowed to have as an international traveller.
Wow.
The bikes come under the category of sporting goods, and as long as they're not more than 32 kilos and don't exceed the oversize limit, then they just come on as normal checked baggage.
So even though we had a trailer load and a boot load of luggage to get on the plane with us, we somehow managed to get it through the airport. Interestingly, we had to pick up the boxes in Auckland International Terminal and then take them through to the domestic terminal, which we hadn't been aware of at the time. But one of the bikes grew in weight by 1 kilogram in that travel.
Someone's scales are a bit dodgy.
And I think the thing about New Zealand, cycling around New Zealand, is coming from a Kiwi. A lot of people also underestimate how mountainous and challenging it can be, because New Zealand on a map obviously looks, relatively small and accessible, but really it's not. You're cycling sort of around mountains all the time. And so are you finding that the terrain, I mean, had you been cycling there before, or was this all new?
I had visited New Zealand before, but not cycled. So I was sort of, I'm aware of how amazing mountains are over here. We've done some big mountains in Tassie and bits and pieces around Australia, but we are definitely we are going to be conditioned and broken in New Zealand. We've been the Clutha Gold Trail, which is absolutely spectacular, which took us out from Lake Waihola, and we'll end up at Alexandra. But it's an easy grade, and it's beautiful because it ends up cutting off the tops of the mountains by going through these amazing tunnels. So we've been very thankful for these sort of an easing into the New Zealand hills.
And how's the little one going? Because, oh my gosh, it must be a whole set of new challenges having a 1-year-old with you.
She's been doing really, really well. I mean,
she's just living her best 1-year-old life. She's just rampaging around the place. When she's in the baby seat, she's generally very happy to sit there and watch the world go past her. She's learnt to sleep in her baby seat quite easily, so she gets a snooze most days, reclining in behind Nicola. And when we're at camp, she just dominates whatever space she's in.
I mean, it's very interesting because she'll see us go over to the bikes, and she's got a couple of words, but that's about it as a 1.5-year-old. But she will go and she'll grab my helmet and she'll go, "Mum, Mum, Mum," and she'll pass me my helmet and she'll grab hers, and she knows everything that has to happen. And it's only been 2 weeks on the bike, so she's there trying to pass you panniers and saying, "Where's my drink? Where's the water?" And it's incredible. She's got into the rhythm of it already. And I think the challenges are the challenges that any parent of a young child has when they're tired, when they're cold, when they're hungry, or when they're incredibly bored. So it's just about managing them on a bike. And once you're on top of them, it's actually really smooth with her on there.
I was just going to say, I mean, people probably might think that sitting on a bike would be boring for a small child. And I have to say, so far, I think that it's pretty stimulating for our little Jeannie. I think she enjoys just being part of the moving, rolling festival on the bike.
Well,
and
what a fantastic way to give kids, though. You look at how many kids are staring at screens these days for extended periods of time. I mean, and you're getting the kids out in nature and they're seeing, and now they're getting to see, other countries. So what an incredible experience for them.
And it's very different to, traveling along in a car where things are zooming along and they're all blurry for a child, or they can't out the window. She gets to travel at a pace where she can see, the shape of the leaves on a tree. And you can say, oh, look, there's a sheep out there, and she'll go bar. And, she's learning all these things as you're going along, because there's time, because it's such slow travel.
Yes, of course. Amazing. So tell us about where you're headed to. So you said you're going from there to South America, and then and what happens from there?
Well, South America is a big question mark, really, because we're starting in Lima, and the Andes are obviously a whole new ball game when it comes to cycle touring with kids, and we don't really know how that'll go. We may end up taking some other transport options to get us south to Patagonia over the rest of this year, and then eventually, though, we'll need to leave South America, and we're aiming to fly across to Europe and then Central Asia. And we'll obviously have to navigate lots of geopolitical issues over there. But we'd like to make our way by bike and the odd bus and whatever back to Southeast Asia. And I think another 2.5, 3 years we'll be back in Australia. And hopefully we can say we've cycled / bus / walked a little bit around the world at the end of all that.
Wow, what a remarkable achievement, and like I said, such a fantastic opportunity that you're giving your kids, and such a great. So how old will the kids be when you get back?
That's a good question. They will be 13, 11 and 4.
Yeah.
They will be in grade 8, grade 6 and starting kindergarten.
Yeah, wow. How fantastic is that? Just remarkable what you're doing in your journey, and we will absolutely have to catch up with you when you're somewhere in Asia or South America or somewhere to have a chat. But we are running out of time, so I'm going to ask you the question we ask all of our guests at the end of our interviews, which is, what's the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to you on your travels?
Nicola.
Okay, so we are in the middle of, I would say, nowhere. We're travelling down the Borderline Road, Western Australia, coming into the hottest part of Australia, near Marble Bar, and we haven't seen a car in ages. There's beautiful rock escarpments, and then all of a sudden, this four-wheel drive pulls up next to us, and the door swings open, and there's this very
he's shirtless
in stubby footy shorts old fella, Brian Bush, jumps out of the car. There's a few tinnies that sort of roll out, and think, yo, what's going on here? And Brian turns out to be the most amazing herpetologist, so he knows everything about reptiles, and he's got a car full of snakes and lizards, and he pulls them out, including Barry, bobtail lizard, who's got a sombrero on, this Mexican hat on this lizard's head, and he's there educating the kids for like a good hour, all about snakes and reptiles of Western Australia. And it's just, his passion for it was just incredible, and he was just one of those characters full of life, and it was just one of those moments that the kids will never forget, neither will we.
Oh, I love it. That's hilarious. Look, it's been so great to have you both on the show, and we will put all of the links so people can follow you along the way, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again.
Fantastic. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Gosh, they are so inspirational. I love that they are also providing schools with content so that they can educate the kids about what this type of adventure entails and what you see along the way. And you can read more about their adventure at swagfamily.au.
We have 2 tips for you this week. The first is a little one from my trip to Varuna. So I was fortunate enough to trial a Sleep Keeper pillow carrier The company was started by Diane Tipper, who's a keen sewer, and she was asked by a friend to make a cover so that she could take her own pillow on holiday. So Diane did do that, and then she had requests from other people who wanted to do the same thing, and she also made one for herself. And she realised how much better that she slept and how easy it is to actually travel with your own pillow when you've got a good case carrier. So she started to make them for everyone.
Oh, is it bulky? I mean, how do you carry it?
So it's made using 100% Australian polyester and it's water resistant. And I have a really thick pillow, so I wasn't sure how it would work. But you basically just lie it down or the Velcro side down and you slip your pillow into it. And then you literally just roll it up and secure it with Velcro straps. And it has a little handle on it, so you can just slip it over your suitcase handle and it ends up shrinking down to about a third of the size.
Oh, it sounds like a little swag almost. I really like that idea because even when hotels have a pillow menu, there's nothing quite like your own pillow, right?
No, absolutely not. And if you're travelling to multiple places and obviously sleeping in lots of different beds with different pillows, at least you know you've always got a good pillow, because I actually get neck pain sometimes from having, strange shaped pillows and not the right pillow to support your neck. And it's good for those worrying about hygiene too. So particularly post-pandemic, people like to have their own pillows. You don't know how many people have slept on that pillow that you're sleeping on when you're travelling.
I try not to think about it.
No, you try not to think about it. But it is definitely a bit like peace of mind having your own pillow. So I actually wasn't sure how I'd go with it, and I honestly loved it, and I'm definitely now a convert. And because it was really light and really easy to take, it wasn't like it was, it felt like you were having to lug something else around. So I'll definitely be using it on my next trip as well. And you can check them out at sleepkeeper.com.au.
And our second tip is to give you the intel you need so you can avoid the airlines with the most flight delays and cancellations. And who wants to risk having a cancelled flight? So data analysts Best Brokers ranked Asia and the Pacific's major airports and airlines based on the percentage of delayed and cancelled flights that they'd had over the last year.
And the worst airline was, I don't think we need a drum roll for this because there's nothing that deserves a drum roll, Indonesia's Lion. And anyway, I can't do a drum roll. Indonesia's Lion Air, and there were also 4 Indonesia airlines in the top 10 most delayed and cancelled flights. Lion Air had a total of nearly 60% delayed or cancelled flights. Geez. Well, second on the list was Go First India.
So Batik Air Indonesia, Wings Air Indonesia and CityLink Indonesia also made the list of those top 10 most unreliable airlines. As well as that, we throw in Pakistan International, Batik Air Malaysia, and add to that our very own Jetstar Australia, which came in at number 10 on the list.
I hate to admit this, but I had to stop flying Jetstar because of its continued cancellations and the number of times I ended up sleeping in really substandard airport hotels. Honestly, I stayed in one that was like something out of faulty towers and losing holiday accommodation as well. We lost like a whole night in Thailand and we were paying a ridiculous amount of money for this accommodation. So also for some reason there seemed to be an excessive number of cancellations at Sydney. So every time I happen to go to Sydney, I'm always stuck there and end up, getting the last flight back to Melbourne on Friday night, which isn't ideal.
Yeah, but the thing about Jetstar is that coming out of Melbourne, they actually have really good not early morning, sort of mid-morning flight schedules. So I booked them. And you know what? I was going to an annual event and 3 years in a row I was late for it because of a Jetstar cancellation. Everybody just thought I was a total loser because I was always missing my flight. And I'm like, no, I've been bummed. I got bummed. The flight got bummed. It was really embarrassing. So I am also rethinking my Jetstar strategy as much as I love their Instagram account. So have you seen it? Have you seen the Jetstar? Oh my gosh, it is so funny. It is very clever. I want to love Jetstar. I want to love you. I really do. But you've got to stop leaving me at the gate. The research also showed the worst airports to be stuck at, and I've been stuck at a few bad ones with nowhere to sit, nothing to sit on, nothing open to eat, to get something to eat or drink. In fact, I was at Lonnie at Launceston Airport in Tassie recently, which last year was an award winner for its improved services. I was waiting for the gate to open and we were all sitting on the floor and I was just thinking, this is crazy. So, so top of that list of airports you do not want to be stuck at was Ninoy Aquino International Airport in Manila in the Philippines, which had more than 51% of all its flights delayed or cancelled last year. And I am totally unsurprised as one who has been stuck at the gate, completely unsurprised. This is the airport you don't want to get stuck at. Although, can I just say, they do have a great little day spa. So it's a swings and roundabout thing, really. Look, you don't want to get stuck there, but you're always going to get stuck there. But if you get past the gate, if you get actually past the gate, then it's actually quite a good airport for having small, inexpensive things to whittle away your time. But the last time I was stuck there, we couldn't even get through customs. There was just a blockage. We stood at customs for 90 minutes waiting for this enormous queue to go through.
Nightmare. And on the flip side, 5 of the 10 most punctual airlines in the region are not surprisingly Japanese, because Japanese are always on time. And the most reliable airline in Asia Pacific was Garuda, so Indonesia does redeem itself there. And that was followed by Bamboo Airways in Vietnam, and Rex in Australia came in at number 5. So, yeah, great. That's so good. And we'll put the full link in the show notes so you can have a look at it at your leisure.
Thanks for listening, and if you would like to help support our production costs, you can buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com, which is ko-fi.com/The World Awaits, so we can continue to bring you inspirational travel interviews with the world's best. That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods. And where can people find you, Kirstie?
I'm at Kirstie Writes on Instagram. That's KIRSTIE Writes, WRITES. And where can people find you, Belle?
You can find me at globalsalsa.com or on Insta at global_salsa.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.